Here's a seasonal tip for Lucky Craft, and the seasonal tip right now is post-spawn. There's two different things that happen in the post-spawn, and I have two baits to kind of meet both scenarios. So what happens during the spawn, the fish are obviously on nests, guarding nests, and they are shallow. And when they get off the spawn, then they try to bulk up to kind of replenish their nutrition, just to get back into shape after not really eating that much during the spawn. And there's two ways they do that. One is they get offshore, or they get out on points outside of the spawning bays and feed on shad. And that's their primary diet, is they just sit and they school, they get in groups of fish, and they key on shad. The other thing that happens is that it's a standard cycle. The bass spawn, and when the bass are done spawning, then the bluegill come in and the bluegill spawn. So you hear the brim bed pattern, the bluegill pattern. Well, the bass will key on one of those two things, either the shad out, kind of on the main lake stuff, or bluegill. And bluegill will get in a pocket, and they'll all spawn in one little group. There'll be 25 of them spawning in one little spot. And all those post-spawn fish get out inside of them, and they just sit there and wait. And when they're hungry, they go in, they eat a bluegill, and they slide it back out and just sit there and watch the beds. And that's all they do for weeks, is they just watch these bluegill spawn, and they just go up and eat one whenever they want. So I have two topwaters for that. Post-spawn is a very good topwater time. So let's start with the shad spawn, or with the king on shad. I like Gunfish 115, and the reason for it is I can fish it very fast. It's a very lifelike looking bait, and the other thing is it casts farther than any other topwater you can put on here. The way it's weighted, when you cast, it doesn't spin, it doesn't roll out, it doesn't curve. You can cast it like a bullet. So if those fish come up and start schooling a little bit and they're a long ways off, you can reach them with the 115. So fish it very fast, has a lot of commotion. It's a walking bait. It has a cup on the front. So while it's walking, it's actually spitting water as well. So it has a very good sound, has a very good commotion, has the walking action, but it's also spitting water in each direction when it's walking. Because when that cup bill, when it turns to walk in the one direction, it splashes water this way. When it turns to walk the other way, it splashes water that way. So it gives off a big commotion. So that's for the shad. For the brim bed for bluegills, I use a G-Splash. The one thing I really like about the G-Splash is this is kind of a chugging style bait from what it looks like. It looks like a chugger, popper. This thing walks better than any other bait out there. It's very similar to a frog in a sense that I can throw it next to a bush, a buckbush in the water, or over the brim beds. And I can walk this thing back and forth without pulling it that far away. So if I throw it right into the front of a bush or right into underwater bush, I can walk this thing and make it turn on a dime without ever coming towards me. So I can keep it in the strike zone for a lot longer. So if it takes a little bit for that fish to come up and react to it, it's there for a long time. And that's the one key thing that I've never found on any other bait. That's so crucial. So let's take even an overhanging tree. I can throw this thing, and I'm telling you, when I twitch this thing, you can make it turn and never even move it forward. You make it turn back, and it's almost like you can just keep it in one place. So keeps in the strike zone longer. Key on those brim beds, bluegills. When those fish get on that. So those are your two options seasonally: post-spawn fishing, shad bait, Gunfish 115, bluegill bait, G-Splash. Now this is the bigger G-Splash, so you can do the smaller one as well, but I like the bigger one. That right there is basically going to wrap up post-spawn in any condition you come to across the country.